5, 4, 3.
We set out to create a program that would present thoughtful, fair, and honest kitchen table conversations with well-known and well-worth-knowing people. People who make Chicago one of America's greatest cities. In the vein of the long-running PBS program, The Charlie Rose Show, but with a uniquely Chicago twist, guests and I would sit at a round table on a minimalistic set designed to create a safe space free of clutter, both figuratively and literally. We'd encourage and support our guests as they fearlessly shared who and why they are, as well as unpack key successes and mistakes made and the lessons learned from each. That show, In the Arena, premiered on Friday, September 16th, 2022, and it featured the indomitable Ray Lewis Thornton. 50 episodes and 9 In the Arena extras later, the conversations have meant more to me than I could have possibly ever imagined. The power of storytelling on full display, our guests, each incredible in his, her, or their own right, have given viewers, myself included, the gift that is tapping into our humanity, our empathy, and our ability to more clearly see ourselves in each other. Sitting in witness to the fearlessness and grace with which our guests have shared their personal stories of tragedy and triumph, in the hopes of empowering each of us to tap into our own power to do the same, has been literally one of the great privileges of this little black gay kid from the east side of Detroit's life. But alas, the end is nigh. But before we bring down the final curtain one last time, let's re-experience some of the incredible moments of In the Arena right now.
We good in there? All right, in 3, 2.
When recovery seems impossible. In 1986, Ray Lewis Thornton received what she believed, at the time anyway, was a death sentence. Hi, I'm Darrious Hilmon, inviting you to join me for the series premiere of In the Arena. Got the blues. I am honored to sit here with this gentleman, 10-time Grammy-elected legend of blues, Michael Charles. He is joining me and you on the next episode of In the Arena. He was, or some suggest remains, the chief enforcer for one of Chicago's largest and most powerful gangs. Today, he's a political consultant who promotes peace, even when vengeance seems the more expedient route to justice. And while the world continues to grapple with the uncertainty caused by a once-in-a-generation pandemic, Leslie braced herself for the battle of her life. Leslie Anderson Rutland is my very special guest. I am so excited to welcome to this week's program New York Times best-selling author, poet, and mental health advocate, my new BFF, Bassie Igby.
My mom's gonna love this.
Yeah.
Tell me about the woman and man who created you.
My mother name was Ida Mae Bradley. My father, Wallace Bradley. He was a construction worker. Mother was a madam.
The way I describe her, my mother was wise beyond her years. Some of my earliest lessons were around the responsibility we have to and for each other.
My grandfather married this woman to help him raise his child, his grandbaby, you know, like old men do.
Was that the foundation on which the marriage
Oh,
was?
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. He was 52, she was 30, something like that.
And
I
we're
can't
talking about
remember.
Mama now.
Mama. And so he died when I was 6 years old. And no one wanted me. Well, not quite true, I found out. But Mama told me every day, nobody wanted your little white ass.
My mom and my dad are the two people, of course they created me, but I get so many, my friendliness, my ability to talk to anyone, I get that from my mom. My mom was in nursing school, so I stayed with like my grandmother and my auntie, and basically the entire village kind of just raised me. And I think that is a large part of why I revel in community.
I just remember always playing guitar because my dad used to play guitar, so there was always that guitar there. And I don't remember not picking up a guitar. I don't remember what it's like to not play.
And I wonder if part of your love for music was an extension of your love for your father and having that connection.
I would say you're probably right.
You're like, if we're going to do therapy, sure.
I'm sure you're right. I've never looked at it that way, but I'm sure you're right. Yeah, I mean, he's still my hero.
My mother was a stay-at-home mother. She was a volunteer. Anything that happened in our community, she was a part of. She was a part of, with my aunt, her sister, starting the first PTA at Medill Elementary School. And so I came up in a nurturing environment involved with culture. We were exposed at a very early age to everything culturally that the city of Chicago had to offer. Our summers were spent at the Art Institute, the Museum of Science and Industry, the Film Museum, the History Museum. So that's where I get my whole beginning in terms of working in the cultural environment.
My mom and dad are true to form Chicagoans. Both parents went to Lindblom High School. Mom was from the southeast side of the city, dad from the south side. You know, the story of like true American, Black American success, right?
So my mother opened Salon Pastiche in 1995.
I love that name.
Salon Pastiche.
Yes,
beautiful
come on.
name, right?
Yes.
And the sign was this beautiful neon pink sign, trademark in the Rogers Park neighborhood, which is in my Center District. And she ran that place for 25 years with 2 children in tow. And somehow made it work and had a clientele of diverse people from all over the world. And my dad ran the Wild Hare, which was a reggae bar and tavern in Lakeview. And that,
you had a great experience
Oh
growing
yeah,
up.
I mean any of your viewers anybody who has lived in Chicago for more than 20 years probably has heard of the Wild Hare.
Okay.
And it was an institution, people from all over the country would come here.
My father, you know, his Prince Adekoijo Akisanya. He is the son of the Odemo of Ishara, who was a king. My grandfather was a king of Ishara Ijebu. My mother, she is Princess Tinuade Akisanya. She was daughter of a king, a different king.
Okay.
Ashaye in Ogere, Ijebu, Nigeria as well. And so my parents both met back in the, I wouldn't say early 60s, and they decided to come to the United States to further their education. So they were immigrants, student immigrants at the time.
You know, I grew up in a family that was really serious about service, was really serious about making the world a better place in whatever way is most available to you. You know, my parents took very different paths to that, but both certainly had careers oriented around service. And so I think that is a message that we got loud and clear, that whatever else you accomplish, your most basic responsibility is to make the world more beautiful.
They came from 2 different parts of the world, even though we're all Indian.
Okay.
So my dad was born and raised in India under right after independence, British independence had broke from India. And my mom grew up in East Africa in Uganda, and 20 years after British left India, British left Uganda. And so both my parents went through, you know, the impact of British colonization, but in a little bit of a different way, right? So, and they ended up migrating here.
Wow.
And I tell people all the time that little girls with low self-esteem grow up to be women with low self-esteem. And so being so rejected and so abused, I was searching for any attention.
Craving. Yeah.
So when my stepbrother started showing me attention, watching the TV with me, popping popcorn with me, talking to me, it was like our special relationship. And he wasn't the only one. And I want to say what happens is predators know.
Come on. It connects me. I mean, we have all of these stories, and I think that's the reason why, you know, I do feel compelled to fight for the right to read, because in some of those books are those stories, and until you see those stories, you don't believe that you're legitimate. You really don't believe that you're legitimate. You have to have somebody say, you are worthy, and your story is not an aberration. Your story is a story that's called by other people. And so, you know what, for me, it is about showing up and being real and being tangible, and counting and taking up space and telling your story and using your voice and saying, I'm not a lie and I'm not someone's imagination. I exist, and that's what reading does.
And I grew up believing and being told that there's a city for them and a city for us.
Yes.
And so for me, getting into this role and to not bring all of those people who did not have access to these rooms with me, to try to be above my caste, if you will, to like, you're not gonna notice me. I have an obligation, not just to my mom and my grandmother, but to truly thousands who have the same lived experience, who are told that they are not enough. And so it is the reminder that when you see me, you see them.
I got that company up, it was acquired, and I can remember Trina and I, broke as you can be, with that first check in our car, like taking a picture with it. Because I'll tell you what, you know, as poor as I was, I always felt loved for somehow, and I always found a place to love back.
To spread that message and kind of build the society and be the anti-hate campaign. And you know, I'm trying to get rid of all the phobias and all the isms: racism, sexism, fatopia, transphobia, homophobia. I want to get rid of it all. It doesn't make sense when people are hurting and people are dying, and when we could really realize that love is the strongest thing that brings us all together.
These are others, you know, stepping up for me now and say, no, that's my teammate, no, that's my good friend. And so by sophomore, junior year, the tone changed, and by my senior year, I felt like I was one of the brothers and sisters from elementary school. Some of my friends from high school today are still very close friends of mine, and we talk about the beginning, and they share often how they're inspired by my story, and maybe sometimes even embarrassed at the role they played early on. So for me, I just think that, I think you said earlier, there's a lot of unlearning that I think our community must do. And I think part of that are things of having this misconception of who I think you are, that you know, can easily turn into a sense of bullying and whatnot.
Unfortunately, people reacted badly, and that's when my mom started to get threatening letters at the Defender and at home saying she was a race traitor, and this is what your family gets for doing this. So that was the lesson to me, is that there are horrible people everywhere, and it had nothing to do with race. And I never really talked much to my mother about it, and our family, you know, it's one of those traumas you just have to get through.
Yes.
But she told me she had experienced a very violent situation when she first moved to Chicago, and also happened to be black men, and that she never let that change who she was. So that was the only time we ever talked about it, was when she tried to tell me it doesn't have to change you. And it didn't change me.
I had a teacher, Miss Coleman, and English teacher, working on some assignments, and you know, she sent my paper back to me all marked up in red, and I did my revisions, and she came back all marked in red. Probably the third time I said to her, give me whatever grade you're gonna give me, because I'm not doing this no more.
Okay. What grade again was this?
This was my freshman year.
Okay.
And you know, she got me in the corner and she said, Frederick Douglass gave his food away to learn to read and write, and you're giving away knowledge. And I looked at her and probably walked out the classroom like, you don't know what you're talking about. But that stuck with me. That was 25 plus years ago. And I think it was at that moment that I started to value education and realize the privilege that education was.
My mother said to me, now I'm going to say this because she said it, but I'm not calling my mama fat. Let me just be clear. But my mother
We'll
said...
see what she thinks when
okay,
she watches the playback. Go on.
Listen, she said, I'm fat, I'm black, and I'm a woman. And that's what people see when I walk through the door. That's the only thing that they see. And she says, you're black and you're a woman. And those things they see first. And so she used this as a bridge to tell me about work ethic. And she said, that means, you know, baby girl, your work has to be stellar. And you have to do a good job for yourself and know that you have done a great job. And I don't care what you do. She's like, I don't care if you're a street sweeper or a street walker. Now, Dee Dee
Was
don't
she
play.
talking to my mother?
Okay.
Oh, go on. Oh.
She said,
we're big fans of each other.
Yes, you are.
And that was taught. You appreciate family. And family, dare I say mafia, it's family, it's close, and we're big fans of each other. I adore my kids. I would, you know, buy their product.
Yeah. No.
And I'm cheap.
I would pick you off. That's love right there. That's love. And I'm cheap.
And so it wasn't like, oh, you're a student, you're a parent, and this isn't for you. It's, oh, we welcome you. Everyone welcomed me. Faculty, when I didn't have a babysitter.
When we talk about creating space for first gen, non-traditional, it's not just saying come. It is changing or evolving the environment to make them feel welcome. You don't just drop someone in an environment that doesn't have support. So I love everything that you're saying. Continue.
Yeah, no, and I think about it's not just about having access. It really is about the knowledge and that knowledge acquisition. Making sure that once they get there, they have the tools they need to succeed, whether it's a first generation college student or a student parent.
You're losing yourself. No one said that to me. Because I was still persevering, I was still doing all of the things, but my physical body was, it was completely changed.
But it's interesting to hear you, and I need to hear it for myself. When I say that one of the most important acts of kindness I can do for the people I love is to trust that love enough to sit with them and go, I see what's happening. Do you want to talk about what's happening? But I see what's happening. Can we talk about what's happening? What do you want us to take away from that? The experience of reading the words you put on page for us.
To own your story. We all have a story. Every person that has been born and is currently coming into the world has a purpose. So that's what I want each reader to take away. I have a story. I am important. What I have to say matters. And me adding my voice to the tapestry of this life and this lived experience matters.
Let's start with nomenclature. I refer to myself as being rewired.
Come on. It's the name of this show, actually.
I love that, because what I say to people is, I'm not tired and I'm going back. I'm not going back to anything, so there's no retire. It's rewire. I'm unplugging energy from the institution of financial services, Northern Trust, where I had an amazing, wonderful career, to having a portfolio life.
Most days, people are not thrilled to see you walk down the hall. It's not, oh, yay, the Inspector General's office is here. How do you self-preservate, protect your peace?
Well, I was a Red Sox fan in the 90s, so
I'm says
tough.
Everything.
You know, I think I'm a true believer in the power of government to do good. We owe Chicagoans a better government than the one they've gotten.
You as a CEO either have to support it or suggest it, that you open up a call center in Chatham in what was formerly the space occupied by a big box. Was everybody thrilled about that?
You know, some people were. I think a lot of people questioned the decision. And from a conventional business logic, it was a bit of a stretch. I thought it was our responsibility
And a lot of companies talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but how many really try and do something meaningful?
When I am confronted with a situation, whether it's in business or in my personal life or in some civic work that I'm doing, I always try to take a pause and a step back and say, what's the right thing to do here? And right, by the way, is not always the most popular thing to do
Agreed.
either. But
which is good that your relationship to fear is what it is, because you're not fearing repercussions of making the right choice.
That's right. So sometimes we're confined or constrained by policies or maybe some type of protocol or something. You have to also reassess that and say, is this the right thing to do in this particular situation?
We were saying is that we wanted to shift the paradigm as to how these services get delivered. And so we wanted to say that to the market, so we made her our chief paradigm officer. Our HR person was our chief possibility officer, because we felt that it was really important for us for our people to lead us through the possibilities. And so our commitment to them was to do that as well. So we changed the titles to reflect what we were trying to accomplish. And so if you read our titles, literally we were like possibility, empowerment, engagement. Only thing we didn't change is my title was CEO and CFO, because we had to make sure that someone knew who was in charge.
Right. About probably 3 out of 4 bills I've introduced have come directly from regular people.
Come on.
Not lobbyists.
Wow.
Not vested interests. From regular people that live in those far north side neighborhoods who have never had an elected official come to them and ask them anything, and then let alone see it get introduced and passed into law.
Tell me about, after college, your very first paid job.
My very first paid job was where I am to this day.
I can't with
it. The philanthropic piece is one facet of what I do, and you're right. My actual role does bleed into a lot of that, just naturally, because I get to deal with, the civic stuff too, and the civic stuff is in Chicago, as is, all of that, right? But the other piece of it is, to whom much is given, much is required, and I could not be the half-time good Christian that I try to be if I was not, if I was not giving back.
Anyone that's new to DEI, DEI&B, this has definitely shaken their confidence. The marketplace, customers all have a responsibility.
Come on.
And so if everyone is doing what they are supposed to do, this ain't going nowhere.
Come on.
Very simply.
We all have a responsibility.
If we start to lose focus, inside or outside of corporate, inside or outside of universities, we can expect what we're reading to be true.
The things that were instilled in us early on about working hard, and your word is the only thing you can protect, so honor it, right? And integrity, and maybe it was out of fear of like condemnation from God if you weren't your best self. But if I look back over my family's life and my brother's, like everyone worked hard and we cared, and we may not have been perfect by no means, but that feels like the thing that you need to have. I think because I've been young and rambunctious and basically doing whatever the hell I thought made sense to me as a child, my wife might say you still. But in some ways that I think as an adult and channeling that professionally means I can dream and do things, but it will be hard work. And I'm not afraid to do the work.
And that we are here to add value to each other, and to not do so ultimately diminishes the value that you carry yourself. So that is what I bring into each room.
Yes.
And as Maya Angelou said, walk into the room as if you've got 10,000 ancestors ushering you into it.
Come on, you better preach. You better preach up in
That is how I enter the rooms. I enter the rooms recognizing that I have a host of individuals who bought and paid for my ability to stand here or sit here right now.
And if I represent a district with 100 languages spoken, if we cannot translate and interpret materials around crucial government functions, like Cook County, we run the Department of Public Health, the health and hospital system, the courts and jail system, elections. But until we can have full inclusion, we can't have full equity.
And to make sure that government is responsive and that people can read things and understand things in their language is the first It's the first barrier, really, about how equity, it's the first avenue towards equity.
So I ended up taking thousands and thousands of pictures of a time period in the mid-'80s, which is a very interesting time period for Black people in Chicago. So many things were coming into confluence that created a whole set of young Black men being in the loop and being available and situational. So I captured that era.
It's not. I think growing up, there was a saying about Mexicans, like, you're neither from here, ni de ahí o de allá.
Yeah.
Like, neither
Yes, I've
here,
heard that, yes.
neither from here or there. You're from Mexican culture, and you're American culture. That isn't that you're not from these
That's
two, you're not
interesting.
from either. You're from both. You are more than what is being put on. You can navigate these two worlds.
I ask them to do things. It's not like they just come and talk to me and then they're, things are different
Yeah.
or changed. I send them home with homework, and so if they don't want to come and have the conversation with me, they're not going to want to do anything I ask them to do.
Sure.
So that's why it has to happen organically.
Yeah, because I certainly had in my head that there was a couch and you would have a 7-foot player like laid out on your couch and talking about life's woes, right? It's
Yes.
not that whatsoever.
Assistant Vice Chancellor Tanya Witgenfeld-King. We are going to do our final segment here. It's called 3 for the Road.
Okay.
Careful now. It trips some people up. I don't know how. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to give me 3 answers. You ready? I need to hear a declarative.
Yes, I'm ready.
This segment is called 3 for the Road. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to give me 3 answers.
Okay.
You ready?
All right. Are they timed? How should I?
Oh, the strategist. Here it goes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do you have any regrets?
None. None whatsoever. My journey is my journey. And I have learned from every stumble, every roadblock, every rock in the way. And I wouldn't trade my journey for anything. So no, I have no regrets.
Mama, I'm so grateful to know you. Do you have any regrets?
That nephew didn't bring me out sooner. If nephew would have brought me out sooner, we may have not got number 45. We don't know what the next page is, and that is what we actually love. But if you let the awareness of that next page cripple you, you'll never know what your story is.
Man, there are days that I'm like, wow, I will miss having the privilege to be the representative for folks who never get in these rooms. And then there are days where I believe that our ancestors want for us, which is rest.
Rest. There's a power in manifesting when you have it in your mind that you can get it and that you are special. And I would have just really been cheering on the sideline saying that to myself.
60-year-old Ray would have given her 21-year-old self.
Breathe. Breathe. It's breathe.
That's why I enjoy this life. You never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen that can change the trajectory, even if it's for a season.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that, my friend. Sincere thanks to the fantastic guests and guest hosts who helped make In the Arena a transformative space of conversation and shared community. And one last time, thank you, Chicago and beyond, for tuning in. Let me leave you with a final thought for the road. The very one I gave you back in September of 2022. In times such as these, grace is one of the best gifts we can give to ourselves and to each other. Until next time, take good care of you and each other. Good night.